My wife's rude coworker accused her of sleeping her way to her position. So I grabbed him by his collar and dragged him across the room. My wife and I bought land and had a custom-made forever home built summer of 2023. My wife wanted to have a BBQ, pool party in the summer and wanted to invite her coworkers. A couple days before the party, she gave some background on some coworkers I've never met. She got to a person named Dick and told me she was her old boss, director of a different department, and always treated her like crap. I asked her why she's inviting someone like that and she said she doesn't want him to feel left out and make their work relationship even worse. On the day of the party, everything was going smooth. Dick came around 30 minutes late, but I was the one to greet him at the door while my wife was busy with the guests. I introduced myself to him and ushered him to where the guests were. He was actually nice to talk to while we were talking, but his whole demeanor changed when my wife walked over. It was literally like a switch flipped. I ignored it, but my wife offered the guests who came late a tour of the house. While we were giving the tour, he kept saying something negative about every room we stopped at. For example, we showed the living room and he said, "The ceilings are too high. Why did you guys do that? Kind of pointless to have." Another example, we got the guest pool house in the backyard. He said, "Why did you guys build a guest house? Your house is big enough. It's like you want to show off." He kept making comments like that and made the other guests feel so uncomfortable. After the tour was done, we led them to the backyard where everyone else was. Everyone except Dick stayed and he started talking to us. He was asking us questions like how much was the house, who paid for most of it. I told him that's information I'm not comfortable sharing, so we moved on. A little bit later, we were eating and talking with other guests, and we got into the topic of the house. Someone mentioned they loved the backyard layout and asked who we had designed it. My wife answered saying that we designed everything ourselves. While she was talking, Dick interrupted and said in a very sarcastic tone, "Well, be careful not to ask them how much it was. Apparently it's private information that only the elite share with each other." I responded, "Is there a problem here? Ever since you've come here, you've been rude." He just scoffed and said it was just something he wanted to know, and then he kept silent. I pressed him and asked why he would need to know. He didn't say anything and just stared. I told him next time when people are talking, you don't need to involve yourself. When I said that, then he started going on a rant. "I don't know who you think you're talking to like that, but I thought it was odd and wanted to know how wife was able to afford this house on her salary. There's no way she makes enough for this house. Let me guess, you paid for most of it." I cut him off mid-rant and said, "I can talk to you however I want. I don't work for you and neither does my wife. This is also my wife and I's house and you don't get to disrespect us here. I don't know what issues you have with my wife, but it ends here." At this point, and I'm not proud of this, I started getting into his face and continued saying, "Just because you're jealous of my wife and how was she progressed in her career while you stayed at the same position for however long doesn't give you the right to be an asshole. You can get the fuck off my property before I have to force you." He looked dumbfounded because I guess he didn't expect me to get this close. He responded by saying something along the lines of that my wife slept her way to her position and she slept her way to an easy life where she doesn't have to pay for anything. And we're just flaunting our money in people's faces. That was my breaking point, so I grabbed him by his collar and started dragging/pushing him out of the house. When I came back, my wife's close coworkers were consoling her and the others decided it was time to go. Next day, I asked my wife to give me a full rundown of Dick from when she used to be in his department because there's no way someone has that much hatred for someone without reason. So he did try to make advances on her when she first joined, but not only her, but a bunch of other female coworkers, some of who were at the party. She shot him down multiple times. However, he was now having her manager giving a ton of work to do. She was working long hours, but it ended up working in her favor because the other department's manager noticed her workload and her ability to finish it without mistakes and pretty much poached her to join her team. My wife did tell me that when she saw everyone at work, they told her not to worry and a bunch of them were happy someone finally did something to him. Some were hoping for more but happy regardless. She wrote a complaint to HR for harassment against Dick and he did the same thing, but against me. She got an email saying because this happened off of company property and this was not a company-sponsored event, no action needs to be taken by the company, and any disputes that happen needs to be taken care of by the individual. During the meetings, Dick would just stay quiet after my wife spoke as opposed to giving condescending remarks like he usually did. I haven't seen or spoken to Dick since the party, but my wife asked me to come to the company Christmas party where I saw Dick, but he ignored us. I met Tim and when my wife introduced me, he said something along the lines of, "Thanks for coming. Please don't drag me across the room. I'm very nice to your wife." My wife and I burst out laughing and I realized Dick had become the butt of the jokes. My wife told me a couple days ago that he put his 2 weeks in. I joked we should throw a party, but she felt bad because she feels like he quit because of her.